We finished our topic. We finished our first topic in biology. Oh, I've lost connection. So we finished our first topic as far as biology is concerned, and I hope now everyone knows what a cell is, what are the components of cells, the organelles, describing each organelle, the functions of each organelle, and the adaptations of each organelle. So if you can do that, then you are good. You are good to go. And why cell biology? Because like I told you in the beginning, the cell biology is the basis. It is the foundation of biology. Everything rotates around a cell. Even you're going to see these chemicals of life. It also rotates around a cell. Okay? So that's why we had to first study cell biology, and we actually dissect it deeply. Okay? Yes. So I hope all of us know what a cell is, and yeah, we all know what is inside a cell and literally all cell organelles. Now let's talk about chemicals of life. Now, after knowing a cell, then you need to know life. Okay? You need to know life. And all living organisms, obviously, they do have life. But for life to exist, then there must be life supporting chemicals. Okay? And there are these chemicals that do maintain life. Otherwise, without them, then life cannot be. Without these chemicals that we are going to study, life cannot be. Imagine, can you spend a day without eating? Yes, you can. Can you spend a week? Yes, you can't. Can you spend a month? You can't. Why? Because if you don't eat, then these chemicals that are needed to support life, they won't be there. You won't have them. Okay? And if you don't have the chemicals, then obviously life cannot exist. Okay? That's why every day you eat. Okay? You eat to get the chemicals. Now you want to talk about Jesus. That Jesus spent 40 days. I don't know how Jesus interrupted his physiology. I don't know how he did it, but yeah, that's Jesus. After all, he's the king. So now, these chemicals, they do range from inorganic nutrients, okay, such as water, some vitamins, mineral salts, acids, and dietary fibers, refuges, okay, to organic nutrients, okay, such as carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. Now, all these chemicals, all these nutrients must be there in required quantities, not much, not less, but in appropriate quantities for normal functioning of the body. Okay? And in case of any deficiency, in case a nutrient is missing, then you see such conditions. I'm sorry to use this kid. Wherever this kid is should forgive me, but yeah, I found it on internet and I saw it was appropriate for this slide. So this kid Bambi, wherever he is, wherever she is, you can see how. You can see the appearance. You can see the legs. Imagine the legs are swelling, but it's just a bag of bones. That is an idiom, eh? It's not insultive. It's just a bag of bones. You can count the ribs. You can check on the arms. You can check on the head. Why is this appearance? Because some chemicals in this kid's body are missing. It could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 3, but chemicals are missing. Okay? And this kid is not sick, but rather malnourished. That if you provide this kid with food, then everything becomes okay. If you provide a kid with nutrients, then everything becomes okay. Okay? Yes. So, welcome to Chemicals of Life. Okay? By the end of this topic, you shall know why you eat some things, why you don't eat some things, why you prefer some things to the other, and actually why you should eat some things and leave other things. Is that okay? That's brilliant. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Sorry for this kid. I just don't like this picture, but it was appropriate for this slide, and that's why I put the kid in this slide. So now, as we have seen that we have different nutrients, also water is among the nutrients that we have. Okay? Water is a nutrient, and actually, if not, it's one of the most important nutrients, if not the most important. Okay? And this speak was also appropriate. You can see how good water is. Okay? You are in equal terms with water. Okay? Meaning, without this water, I assure you, I repeat, without water, then your body cannot survive. And it shouldn't be excess, neither should it be little or inadequate, but in appropriate amount. Okay? You've studied homeostasis in O level, and we shall also study homeostasis, where everything must be maintained to constant levels. Yes, these chemicals are needed, but however, they are not needed in excess amount or in excess quantities. Okay? But they are needed in appropriate quantities, and so they are maintained in normal levels. So you can have a look. That's water for you. So it is the most important, obviously, inorganic nutrient in life, and actually the most abundant nutrient within living organisms and the surrounding. I'm sure wherever right now, if you open your eyes, you move your eyes around you, I'm sure you are seeing water somewhere. You must have water somewhere around you. And that shows that water is the most abundant. And so because of its abundance, it means water becomes the most important inorganic nutrient. Because of the functions, as we are going to see. Okay? And it's because of this that we shall give enough attention to water as a chemical of life. We shall really give it attention. Okay? We shall attend to water, where we shall see the different functions, the different properties of water, okay, and how we can relate the properties of water to function, okay, because yes, we shall see that water, you have a lot of functions in your body, but which properties do you possess as water that allow you perform those various functions? If you can do that, then you'll be a good student, you'll be a good boy, you'll be a good girl, okay. Yes. So being, since it's the most abundant, if you compare cells, the human cells, good, we've studied cell biology, where you saw that's the cytoplasm. This cell, the nucleus, and this is the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm. Now, we agreed that this cytoplasm is fluid filled. Okay? And which fluid? It is the water, together with some dissolved nutrients within the water. But the cytoplasm is fluid filled. And actually, it is this fluid which maintains the shell. Okay? And the fluid is the water. So it's a fact that 80%, okay, of the cell or cell contents inside, it's water. And 60% of your body weight, imagine your body weight, it's water. If you go on a weighing scale and you measure, maybe, you can guess, okay, most of you here, you are in 60s, to 70 kgs. So if you go on a weighing scale and you measure 60, it means 60% of your body weight, okay, the whole body weight out of 100 is water. So if we try, so 36 is water. Only 24, that's now your body mass. That's now your body mass. That is the organic content of your body. The rest is water. So that implies that water really has some important function in your body. Water is really important in your body. Okay? Yes. And so it needs much care. Okay? It needs much care when we are studying. We need to have attention, much attention on water. So that we can see which properties does this water possess that allow water perform its function. Maybe for any queries, you can drop them. So that is water for you. And right now we've agreed that water performs is equally important. Water is important in your body. Now, do you know how? Do you know why? And do you know the properties of water? Okay? Because for you to be, for let's say water, for you to be important, for the water to be important in your body, it must at least possess some properties. Okay? Now, let's check on those properties of water that do allow water to be that important in biological systems, in life. Okay? Yes. And the first one is simple. It's a liquid at room temperature. You may assume this to be obvious, but it's because of that property that water performs a diverse range of functions. Imagine, properties of liquids. They take up the shape of the container. So now imagine if water was a solid, and yet we have said 80% of the cell contents is water, but your water is a solid. How would it be possible to deposit all this solid within a cell? And how would materials then easily flow within a cell from the nucleus to the outside? Okay, even the outside, this intercellular space, is filled with water. So now the question is, if water was a solid, or if water was a gas, would it be really useful? Like how? Like I can't even imagine. Like how? Yeah. But since water is it's a liquid at room temperature, okay, then you can easily deposit it in the cell to form that cytosol, where reactions can easily occur, where you can provide that cell shape, and it won't affect any materials that are moved throughout the cell or within this cell. Somebody has joined. And then it can easily be used to form the cytoskeleton and stuffs like that. Okay? And stuffs like that. Why? Because water is a liquid at room temperature. So we own properties of water that allow water perform its function in biological system. And we have seen that one of the properties is that water is a liquid at room temperature. So don't take it to be obvious, but it is key. It is key. Then let's see. Another property is water has a high specific heat capacity. Now you studied this in physics, and you also studied this in chemistry, that thermochemistry, that's in your theory topic. But heat capacity, it is the amount of heat, okay? Amount of heat that is required to raise the temperature, okay, of water. I'm not defining specific heat capacity. To raise the temperature of a given amount of water by 1 degree Celsius. Just 1 degree Celsius. If you get your water and put it on a saucepan, and you get your thermometer, you measure, and then you heat that water while stirring, and the temperature changes by just 1 degree Celsius, that amount of heat absorbed to raise the temperature of water by 1 degree Celsius is what we call the heat capacity. Now for specific, it's 1 gram, okay, by 1 degree Celsius, or 1 kilogram by 1 degree Celsius. Okay, and the values just vary by, this one has 0, this one doesn't. So that amount of heat, are you saying it? You heat water, you heat any liquid, and its temperature changes by 1 degree. Remember, there is no way how we can measure heat as heat. Heat is a form of energy. So you cannot easily measure heat absorbed or heat that is lost. But the measure of heat absorbed is by measuring temperature. So if you heat and the temperature of the solution or temperature of the substance changes by 1 degree Celsius, then that's heat capacity. Now water has a high heat capacity, which is 4.2, I think. 4.2 joules per gram. Okay? Is it per degree Celsius? Yeah, 4.2 joules per gram per degree, I think. Okay? I think those are the units. You can check on the units. So the heat capacity is high, meaning or implying that you need too much heat to raise the temperature of water by 1 degree Celsius. And this is good. This is important. Okay? In biological systems. So important. So important. we are going to see, we are going to relate, but it is important in biological systems. Think about the aquatic organisms where there is a lot of variation. eh? For example, in Europe, where they have summer and then winter, where summer it's too hot, too hot, too hot, and then winter it's too cold. Or even on that side, let's come back here in our setup. Right now, it's 10. It is not that hot. At 8, it was not that hot. At 7, 6, it was cold. But at 1, 2, eh, from noon, okay? 1, 2, 3, this period here, too hot. It's always too hot. I don't know where to stop from. Too hot, especially during summer. Too hot that you try to move in sunlight, in sunshine, in this time, you feel it in your head. You feel it in your cranium. Okay? That the sun will be hitting your cranium to the extent of cracking it. Okay? Anyway, it's just a joke. Now imagine such sunlight, such heat, okay, to aquatic organisms. Imagine if water didn't have this high heat capacity, that in the morning it will be cold and the temperature of the water bodies maybe will be around 0 degrees Celsius. Then noon, it increases, imagine, to 50 degrees Celsius. Imagine a range in dive in such a range in temperature change of the water body. Which organism would easily cope up to this? Yes, you might easily cope up to this, but when it drastically changes to 50, you die. Alternatively, you might easily cope up to 50, but when it drastically changes to 0, you still die. Okay? So what does that mean? Having a high heat capacity is important in that you kinda, that we shall relate properties to functions. So, but I'm giving you the line of thinking. You think in that dimension, so that by the time we reach there, you be aware. Okay? Yes. So, it kinda maintains these aquatic ecosystem, to have that stable environment with no fluctuations in temperature as the day changes, as the seasons change. Is that okay? So you now appreciate why water should have a high heat capacity? Yes. Even in your body, anyway, we shall see. But water, one of the properties is water has a high heat capacity. Number 2, water expands as it freezes. Okay? In other words, water in liquid form, okay, has a high density. Okay, when it expands, then the density decreases. So okay, water in liquid form has a high density, okay, and water in solid form has a lower density. So as a result, ice can float on water. Actually, the maximum density of water is at 4 degrees Celsius. Water has a maximum density at 4 degrees Celsius. Okay? And so as a result, below 4, it starts to solidify and it forms ice, and ice expands. Okay? So ice will float. And above 4, okay, the density also decreases. Above 4 degrees Celsius, the density also decreases. And we shall see the function of this in biological systems. in nature, is it useful? Or it is just a wastage? It's just a waste. Or these properties not that important? So we shall see, we shall see, we shall see. So let's talk about the properties, and then after the properties, we shall relate these properties to function. So the same, water has a maximum density at 4 degrees Celsius, meaning below 4, the density decreases, and below 4 you start forming ice. Okay? So the density decreases, and above 4, okay, above 4 degrees Celsius, the water is being warm. Okay? And so what does that mean? Also the density decreases. So what is the significance of this? We are going to see. Then another property is you have a high surface tension. Water has a high surface tension. And surface tension is that ability of water to not ability but appearance of water as an elastic unit, as a stretched unit. Okay? And what does that mean? If you put water in a glass, okay, it will form that lower meniscus. Okay? And it's like the above the surface is pulled to on the walls of the glass. Okay? Why is that so? It's because of water molecules having high cohesion tension forces. Okay? And so they will make this surface to appear like an elastic, as a stretched elastic unit. And so, if you bring anything, okay, some substances, maybe a needle, okay, and you drop it on top of water, it will be able to float. You bring something that is less dense than water, it will be able to float. So that ability of materials to float on water is due to the high surface tension of water. Otherwise, if water didn't have a high surface tension, then it would be hard for materials to float on water. For instance, you get this needle, there's some illustration used to do in senior 2 physics to illustrate surface tension. You get your needle, okay, and you put it flat on water, it floats. But when you add salt in this water, the dicey salt, when you add soap in this water, the needle just sinks. Why? Because the soap is reducing the surface tension, okay, of the water. And if you reduce the surface tension, then what does that imply? It will sink. So water has a high surface tension, and we are going to see the function of that in biological systems. Then water has a high latent heat of fusion. High latent heat of fusion. What is this? This is the latent heat of fusion. It is the enthalpy change or the heat change that occurs when water freezes. Okay? So here you have water in liquid form and the water freezes to form ice. Okay? Now, in the process, if water is freezing, then this ice, sorry, when water is freezing to form the ice, heat is going to be given out. Heat is going to be lost. Similarly, when ice, okay, is melted to form water, then the same heat which was given out is the same heat that will be absorbed in this chemical change, in this physical change. Okay? So now, since water has a high latent heat of fusion, then much heat is evolved when water converts to ice. I repeat, much heat is evolved. Much heat is given off when water converts to ice. When water changes to ice. And that one is important in biological systems. You cannot ignore this property. This is a property of water, and these properties so important, equally important. In fact, you can say important. That is if you want it. Okay? Then high adhesion and cohesive forces. Now, with adhesive forces, adhesive, there is this, to clearly understand, there is this advert that usually runs on TV. The quick set stuff, that quick set advert. And finally say adhesive. Now adhesive means strongly bound. Okay? Strongly bound. Two substances that are not the same. Okay? Yes. Now, since water molecules, if you pour water in glass, the water will form that lower meniscus. That's how it is going to appear. Why is it forming a lower meniscus? It's because water has a high adhesive forces, or water forms high adhesive forces with the walls of the glass. Okay? That will keep these water molecules adhered on the walls of the glass. Okay? Keep walls. So they keep the water molecules attached, adhered on the walls of the glass. But also because water has a high cohesive forces. Now cohesive forces, these are forces of attraction that do exist between the same molecules. Also the water molecules, they strongly attract each other. They form strong hydrogen bonds which keep them close together, attracted each other. And so these hydrogen bonds, they're the ones that we refer to as the cohesive forces. And these forces that are formed between the water molecules and the walls of the glass, okay, they are the ones that we refer to as adhesive forces. And so water has high cohesive and adhesive forces. So what does that imply? It implies that, anyway, it's a property of water, and we are going to see the function of this property in biological systems. Think about transport of water within the xylem. How is water going to be transported? Imagine a plant. You have roots that are as long as, so long. But even plants have stems that are so long, that are elongated. So, how is water able to move from the soil up to the very last, the uppermost leaf, for the leaf to carry out photosynthesis? Then there must be some property of water that is best known for that. I hope it is okay. I hope it is okay. Let's check on another property. Water is, now this is good. Water is colorless and transparent. Imagine if water was as thick as milk. Oh, it is not. Water is colorless. Don't assume to be obvious. Water is colorless. It doesn't have any color. It's not like blood. It's not like, pure water is colorless and it is transparent. It allows light to penetrate through. Okay? That's why water in a swimming pool, you can see the bottom of the swimming pool. However deep, the pool is. Okay? However deep the pool is. I hear now this is not a fact. This is not a fact. But you can Google to find out if it's a fact. That we have some deep lake with clear water. Eh? That it's even the deepest. But the water is clear that you can see the bottom. You can see the bottom. Yet it's the deepest. That is not a fact. It's just I heard. So you can fact check. You can fact check it and see if it's true. But if water is clear, if the lake is not polluted actually, hmm? The lake is not polluted, no dissolved particles, no those small particles, no algae, no nothing, and the lake is clear, trust me, you will still see the bottom. Okay? If you if you observe from the top, you still see the bottom, however deep the lake is, however deep the river is. Okay? Because it's colorless and it is fully transparent. And this transparency is not obvious. It's not obvious. Hmm? It's not. Actually, in science, there is nothing that happens just for just. It's not just that water is just colorless. No, no, no. There is a function. Water is going to perform a function because water is colorless. Think about organisms that grow deep in the water body. Those organisms, first of all, they must see. If they are plants and they have grown at the, I was going to say benthic zone, but that is too much. Let me not say that. If they are plants and they have grown at the bottom of the water body, then those plants must receive light in order to carry out photosynthesis. Otherwise, if they don't, then they will die. They will perish. So now if you imagine if water wasn't colorless, how would these aquatic organisms easily move through such a thick, opaque water body? So I hope I'm giving you direction so that when you reach there, you just wallow. You just give us the answers. It's a universal solvent. Yes, water it can dissolve a diverse range of solids. A good number. In fact, sorry. In fact, all polar solvents can dissolve in water. All polar solids can dissolve in water. All polar solids. Water being a polar solvent. Why is that word coming to my mind? Let me say. So now, it dissolves a diverse range of polar solids. Of solids. And so, yes, you might see it as obvious. You might see it as funny. You might be like, hey, now is this one really? Yes, it is really. It is important in biological systems that water must be a solvent for all. Otherwise, imagine if water dissolved just one salt, maybe sodium chloride. Where would other salts go? Where would potassium ions go? Where would nitrate ions go? Where would carbon dioxide? Where would... Hey, so being a polar solvent means you can dissolve a diverse range, and so you allow chemical reaction to take place within you the water. Okay? Then finally, it has a lower viscosity. Water is not as viscous. Viscosity means ability of a liquid to easily flow on the surface. Ability of a liquid to flow on the surface. Now, if you pour water on a surface and then the other person pours milk, and then the other person pours oil, cooking oil, and then the other person pours honey, which liquid will easily flow? With ease. There is no wind to influence, no. It is in a controlled room. Obviously, water is going to easily flow. And honey is going to kukisembamu. Honey will be the last honey. So that ease of flow of a liquid is what we call viscosity. And water is low. It's a low viscous fluid. It has low viscosity compared to other fluids. And this is important. It is important in biological systems. Why? Because imagine you are the aquatic organism and you want to locomote through water, but the water is as thick as honey. Oh my God. How would you easily locomote through such? How would you locomote through such? You see? So because of low viscosity, then this one is really important. It is really important in biological systems. Okay? That's good. Now, can we brainstorm about functions of water? Let each one of you at least drop like 3. Let's each one of you at least drop like 3. Let me check on. Yeah, so you've actually given most of my functions, okay? And that was really good. That was good. That was good. It was impressive. So function number 1, it's a component of cells. We have seen that 80% of a cell is actually water. That's cytosol. That's if the cytoplasm is fluid filled. If I draw this as my cell, okay, and I draw this as the nucleus, this is not just space. It is not just space. I repeat, it's not just space. We've studied cell biology. We now know you have their organelles, you have their fibers, you have their, but the cytosol, which is water, okay, which is water together with dissolved solids. Many of them could be proteins, inorganic ions, organic liver-own proteins, carbohydrates, very many, and they are dissolved within the water. So if you don't have the water, then I don't know how you can have these nutrients. Then it's a solvent and a medium for transport. The blood, blood, it's the one which distributes everything. But blood, is it 60% water? Because it has plasma and is it serum? But that it is the blood is water, purely water. But water with some dissolved nutrients, then some cells, and then cells with. But it's water. And it is the water that dissolves nutrients to be transported in blood. Think about plants. As you're absorbing water from the soil, as water is being transported along the xylem, nutrients are transported along. They get dissolved in the water and then transported along with the water. So as you are pulling water, we shall study transport. We shall see those forces which pull water, okay? Which move water up the xylem. So as we are studying those forces, as you are busy pulling water, even these nutrients are transported along. So water therefore becomes a medium for transport. It's a reagent, yes. For example, photosynthesis, it's a raw material, okay? It's a raw material. Digestion, all these hydrolysis reactions, water is part. For you to hydrolyze starch to maltose, maltose to glucose, those are hydrolysis reactions and water is part, okay? Water is part. So therefore, without water, then I don't know. You can't just split. These are not kinase enzymes. They can't just split. Okay? Yes. So with those hydrolysis reactions, water is part. Fertilization, now this one. You produce sperms, and sperms are packaged to form semen. Okay? But semen is just water. Even ladies, when you release your sperms, the ladies will produce fluids where these sperms will just swim and they will swim towards the ovum. So that shows that we evolved actually from water. If you check on the aquatic organisms, for example, the mosses, for the algae, if you check on these sessile organisms, the sponges, the hydra, for them they just produce sperms and they release sperms into water. Then sperms just swim, just taken by the water current. Okay? Water, 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 water. Until when they land into the other female organism, where it will fuse with an ovum. So even us, you can see that aspect of water. But as because we are evolving away from water, then we tend to. But still that aspect of water remains. Okay? So that supports evolution. Why? Why do we also dwell? Why do we depend on water to carry out fertilization? So without water, fertilization can't occur. You can't extract your sperms within you. Now we have laboratory issues. But you cannot extract sperms within you and you have them in your hands and you just inject them and you squeeze sperms directly into the ovum. There must be some medium, okay? And it is that water which provides the medium for transport, for movement, for swimming of these sperms, these gametes. Disperse of seeds, fruits, and then germination. And gametes, sorry. In other words, dispersal. If it rains right now, the seeds will be taken, okay? And dispersal, the uses. You prevent competition in a given locality, and you can also easily colonize new areas. So therefore, without the water, then it becomes hard for some seed to be dispersed because there are seeds that are specific, that are adapted to be dispersed by the water. Then nobody talked about seed dispersal, which is good. We have other functions, transpiration. Yeah, somebody talked about this, cooling the plant and then opening and closure of stomata, then turbidity. He talked about all that. But transpiration, you lose water. So as you lose water, you lose excess heat. Okay? And you are able to regulate your temperature. As you lose water, then you absorb. Then you create that transpiration pool, which pulls more water to move up the xylem. Now as water is moving up the xylem, nutrients move along with the water. So transpiration is a necessary evil, and without water then, I don't know how you the plant can absorb the nutrients. What so? Yes. Translocation, yes, movement of food within the phloem. It is also water. You can read the Munch's hypothesis. You can try to Google that guy's hypothesis, the Munch. It is M. Okay, you can call it the mass flow hypothesis. And C, the mass flow hypothesis. And C, hypothesis. I think this is I. And appreciate the role of water in transport, in translocation, okay, in movement of manufactured food. Okay? Yes. So water is so important in biological systems. Germination, yes, somebody talked about germination. Water plays an important role in germination, where if water is imbibed, that is, if water enters the seed through the seed coat. I don't want to talk about this more. If you want more of it, you can go in our classroom in the biology videos for senior sixes. Coordination, there is who I talked about germination. So, when water is imbibed, if this is your embryo, it goes into the embryo and activates certain plant hormone called gibberellic acid. Okay? That plant hormone called gibberellic acid. And so what happens? It is now that gibberellic acid that will induce the process of seed germination. Okay? But water is first imbibed. Water is first taken in. And as if that's not enough, the taking in of water softens the seed coat, so that the radicle and the plumule can easily now penetrate through the seed coat. Otherwise, if you don't imbibe water, if you don't take in water, then the seed coat remains impermeable, and so the seed cannot germinate. Air enters after you soften the seed coat, and if enough air enters, then respiration increases. And if respiration increases, then you produce enough energy that is going to be used in cell division. And boom, you produce enough cells. And this seed germinates. Is that okay? Yes. Then, involved in osmoregulation, yes. Maintain the osmotic potential, osmotic pressure in your body. You know everything must be maintained constant, including water too. So if it goes above normal, then you take, if the osmotic pressure of blood increases, then you take in much water, you absorb much water. If it decreases, then you lose much water. So water plays an important part, and we shall study all this. Cooling, sweating, and panting, yes, that's why you sweat when it's too hot. I've never seen anybody sweating when it's cold. I've never, unless somebody's there's a word I like, and those I teach, they usually, whenever they see me, or whenever I'm in class and something happened, then they be like, this guy is mad. So I just like to use that word. So if you see yourself sweating in the morning, then probably you are mad, or your body is just mad. How can even sweat in the morning? Okay, how can, when you are not carrying out an exercise, it's raining and somebody is sweating? No. The body is just mad. So you sweat to release water, to release heat. And which heat? The latent heat of vaporization. And actually water has a high latent heat of vaporization. Okay? Water has a high latent heat of vaporization, and we shall see what it is.
Teacher.
Yes?
You lost connection, so you stop sharing.
Oh my god. Sorry for that. Yeah, so I hope that one is okay now. Thanks for that information. You saved us. Otherwise, I would keep teaching, knowing I'm on. But as usual, this one. So now, water is a lubricant. Hmm? It's a lubricant. E.g., the synovial fluid. The joints must be well lubricated. Okay? The joints must be well lubricated. Otherwise, imagine, hmm? You've ever seen an old car? If you don't provide oil, the joints are stiff. So imagine if such happens within you also. You cannot be able to locomote. But because the joints are well lubricated, okay, with water, with some dissolved salts, some few dissolved salts, then you can easily swing. Hmm? You can swing your arm, you can nod your head, you can do anything with your leg. Joints are easily flexible, I mean for the synovial joints. Okay? Yes, and it's water that performs that. So you guys, we should really. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. It offers support to these organisms with hydrostatic skeleton. Okay? The earthworms. They are able to locomote because of this hydrostatic skeleton. And it's because of water. And it's because water contains certain properties, okay, that allow water perform its function. So man, because of these functions, really, man, we should give a standing ovation to water. It really performs a lot. It really performs a lot. Now, can we in the chat box, basing on all these functions, okay, is the meeting done? Oh, because I was not sharing, it was just a bridge, eh? We still have time. We still have time. If you guys come late, I don't know if you become time conscious like this from 6. By 10 minutes past time, they are already there. But for you guys, today I had to wait up to around 30. So I didn't know what happened. Hmm? And when it crosses noon, obviously I have to stop and prepare for the next class. So we should always come as early as we can. We should try. I know some certain circumstances do happen, but we should try. Okay, meanwhile, so based on the functions and the properties, how can you relate the properties of water to functions? And however, it will take some time. So thanks for the reply. Thanks for your answers. They were really good. So let's demystify some. Let's see. Now, we have seen the properties of water, and we have also seen the functions of water. Now, let's see how the properties of water relate to functions in biological systems. And biological systems, I don't mean human beings, no. I don't mean mammals, no. I don't mean plants, no. All biological systems. Okay? Yes. And the first one, nobody gave this. Yes, I have you. Nobody gave this. So water is transparent. Okay? If you put water in a glass and you flash a flash of torch, a flash of light through that glass, the whole light is going to pass through. Okay? The water, meaning water is transparent. And we saw this as a property. So how is this property relevant in biological systems? It's simple. Like I told you, you have aquatic organisms and aquatic plants that grow at the bottom of water. And you have aquatic organisms that do inhabit in water. So these aquatic organisms must be able to see through the water. And the plants that grow at the bottom must be able to receive light and photosynthesize. So the transparency of water, it will allow full penetration of light for these aquatic organisms, aquatic plants, and aquatic animals to clearly see, and plants do carry out photosynthesis. Otherwise, if it was impenetrable, if it was dark that light cannot penetrate, then I don't know how these aquatic organisms would easily see through water. I don't know how these aquatic organisms, these aquatic plants would carry out the photosynthesis. I hope that one is okay. In case of any query, you can drop it in the chat box. Then it has low viscosity. Yeah, somebody gave this, which is good. And the low viscosity allows smooth flow, okay, of water. Now, we have seen that water performs different functions. For example, it can be, blood, transport. Water can be transported, not so, within the xylem. Now, if water is highly viscous, if water is like honey, if water is like oil, how would imagine blood? How would blood easily flow narrow capillaries? How? How? How would water move up the xylem if it was as viscous as honey? Okay? Then it becomes hard. Okay? Number two, if water was as thick as honey, how would aquatic animals move through such thick water? How? Like how? Please tell me. So the low viscosity of water allows easy flow of water, okay, through tubes, that is the blood capillaries and xylem, which ensures easy transport of materials, of water, first of all, and the dissolved materials. Number two, it reduces resistance, okay, of these aquatic organisms to flow through the water body. So it's as simple as that. Number two, water has a high surface tension. Like I told you, surface tension is that ability of substances to flow on top of water, to float on top of water. Like for instance, you can have a look at this one. I think these organisms, they are able to walk. Somebody might assume that they are small organisms. They are large organisms that can also walk on water. If you can't confirm, you go on YouTube and search for Jesus Christ lizard. Jesus Christ lizard. You'll be mesmerized. I mean Jesus. Maybe I take you there. Jesus Christ lizard. It is a lizard that is able to walk on water. I mean walking, not swimming. Walking on water. Why is it able to walk on water? Because water has a high surface tension. And so water having a high surface tension, it supports these organisms to easily float, to easily walk on water. Like how you can see. This is because of high surface tension of water. Okay? So these organisms can easily float, can easily walk. You search, try to search the Jesus Christ lizard. You'll be mesmerized. Should I? Maybe I will show you at the end of the lesson. I will show you how that lizard can easily walk on water. Somebody wants to be admitted. So let's continue. Water has a maximum density. Now this concept, let me first show you from ice. Are you seeing this ice? It's able to float on water because of this property. Water has a maximum density at 4 degrees Celsius. Hence, ice floats on water. Now, let me talk about it extensively. Let me talk about it. Now, this is your water body. Okay, this is the water body. Let me use this. Okay? Now, let's say this ice is not there. Not yet there. Now, if the temperatures reach 4, okay, then the water bodies, the water, they start to form ice. Okay? Water starts to solidify. Okay? To freeze, to form ice. And because ice forms some extensive structure, okay? You know water forms hydrogen bonds between water molecules. Okay? The hydrogen bonds. So as water freezes, okay, then these hydrogen bonds become like strong, okay, which makes these water molecules to be further apart from each other. Okay? And this phenomenon, it makes ice to have that extensive structure. Okay? These water molecules being further apart from each other, okay, it makes the ice to have an extensive structure with spaces, actually, with spaces in it, okay, which makes the density of ice to be low compared to the density of water. So from 4 below, where at 4 you start forming ice, so the density of water begin to decrease. But also, when temperature increases, the water molecules do absorb heat, which increases the kinetic energy of the water molecules, hence increasing the density of the water molecules. Molecules become further apart. You weaken these bonds, hence molecules become further apart. Hence density of water decreases. So as a result, you will have a maximum density of water at 4 degrees Celsius. Meaning from 4 above, the density decreases, and from 4 below, the density of water decreases. Now, this principle is important in nature. This principle is important in life. How? Now, let's take an example of Europe. Okay? Europe, where they have winter. And in winter, you find when the room temperature is around, the environmental temperature is around negative 10 degrees Celsius. Negative 5 degrees Celsius. Okay? That no organism, obviously, no animal can survive at such a temperature. No animal can survive at such a temperature. But the water bodies, obviously, they will have aquatic animals. But see, the environmental temperature is at negative 5, negative 10 degrees Celsius. Now, how are these aquatic organisms, how are these organisms going to survive at such a temperature? Think about that. How? How? For you human beings, you are smart. That for them, they construct houses with two walls even. Okay? And the first wall is usually, should I say, vacuum. That this space is a vacuum. They try to create it a vacuum. And as if that's not enough, then they try to do heating to provide, they have warmers, air conditioners, and is it and temperature, whatever. They warm the rooms that they live in, so that the room temperature is not the same as the environmental temperature. But that's for human beings. But now, these aquatic organisms, do they also have warmers, heat, the instruments to heat their rooms? Do they? Do they have fans? Do they have air conditioners? No, they don't. They live in nature in a raw form. Then how are they able to survive in such an extremely cold condition, cold environment? Imagine negative 10 degrees Celsius, the surrounding. It is because of this principle. It is because of this property that they can survive. Let's see how. Now, water having a maximum density at 4, if the environmental temperature decreases, the temperature of the water is going to decrease. Remember, this is a water body, okay? So the environment, this is the water that is on the surface, okay? This is bottom. So as the environmental temperature decreases, the water at the surface, the density is going to decrease, okay? Now maybe it was initially at 18, and environmental temperature has decreased to 10, the water is also going to decrease to 10. Environmental temperature decreases to 5, the water is also going to decrease to 5. Environmental temperature decreases to 0, the water is going to decrease to 0. But now when it reaches 4, okay, now water begins to solidify, to form ice. That at 0, the water becomes ice. The water turns into ice. Is that okay? Now, instead now of continuing, now this surface water, this one, the surface water, the whole of it, is going to solidify. Okay? Because it is the one that is in close contact with a cold environment. So it will solidify and turn into ice. And when it turns into ice, this now the whole surface water is going to turn into ice, okay, the whole of it. And this ice water, since it's less dense than the water just below it, okay, because you have seen that from 4 you go down, the density decreases. So since ice has less dense, or is less dense than the water below it, then the ice is going to float on top of water. And so when ice floats on top, the whole of this water is going to be covered by ice. I mean, it's winter, it's extremely cold, 10 degrees Celsius. So the whole of this surface is going to be covered by ice. So now this ice insulates these bottom layers, the bottom waters, from encountering such a cold environment. And so the top will remain when it's ice, okay? The top will remain ice, but the bottom water will remain as water, okay? And so the aquatic organisms will inhabit in these bottom waters. until when the winter is done. If you want to confirm this, you go and watch some movies. There's this game, is it ice skating? It's not a movie, it's a game. Or it's ice, whatever. Where people come and skate on top of ice. This is a water body, but people are playing on top of the water body. Make a mistake and this one cracks. Make a mistake, you will appreciate. Okay? You will really appreciate that this is not ice, but rather there is also a certain movie I'm still trying to. Oh, it's okay. There is a certain movie that I'm still trying to recall. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to figure it out. I hope the charger connected. Let me see. Yes, it did. I'm still trying to figure out that movie where kids were playing on top of the ice. Actually, there are many movies. There are many playing on top of ice, and then from nowhere, it cracked, and kids had to sing at the bottom. I even have that movie in my laptop. Then there are many movies, and if you